This message brought to you by Chicanos por la Causa.
Bienvenidos and welcome. My name is Limon, and I want to welcome you to the LA Boulevard News, where we tell your story about you, and we're talking about real people, real lives, real incidents and experiences. And we want you to follow us on Latino USA TV and upload the link to that and follow us under Los Angeles Boulevard News. We're on social media, and I want you to stay in touch, stay in tune, so that we could all walk together on this journey called Chicanismo. I'm here with a friend of mine, a real good buddy of mine, a camarada, a carnal. I met him a couple years ago, and he has a very interesting life. And that's the purpose of this show, is so that we could tell our stories, our ways, our experiences through our lens, and the lens of what it is to be brown and proud, and not to have somebody else tell us our stories. My brother here, Vidal Herrera, has a very interesting story that I think that you'll like, and you'll stick around, and you'll want to tell others about it. I call him El Muerto. But before that, let's introduce yourself. Vidal, let me know a little bit about your history and where you're from.
My history, basically it's unconventional, like as many families are, but it would have to actually start with my mom. She was born in Rupstown, Texas. She came to California in 1942 at the height of the Zoot Suit riots. They lived on Bunker Hill. And when the riots started, of course, she was scared. She wouldn't go outside. And that frightened stayed with her. And eventually she married my father. They divorced when I was 4 years old. I was sent to a foster home. And a very bad experience at the foster home. We were punished for speaking Spanish. We'd come home and get a ruler and pow, hit us on our hand. You don't speak Spanish, you're an American. And so that really caused a psychological block for me. I refused to speak Spanish because I was scared. So when I returned living with my mom, she would belittle me because I didn't speak Spanish. And when I tried to speak Spanish, again, she would make fun of me. And in school, because we always had to work, I was held back 3 times. And we were on welfare, like as many kids were. The kids that were on welfare had to work in the cafeteria. So I was always around food, washing dishes. And that led into middle school for 1 semester, and then I stopped that. And then when I went to high school, I got a job as a dishwasher at a pizza restaurant. But for me, school was the last thing on my mind. For me, it was all about work, work, work. And back there, you know, the LA Unified School District, they had the shops, plastic, wood, printing, welding. So I took welding, I took a wood shop. But at the same time, the 60s came in. One of our teachers was Sal Castro, and he taught us to believe in ourselves. March 6, 1968, at 10 o'clock, 6 high schools simultaneously walked out to protest the quality of the education. And I was one of those pendejos that didn't take, I just went with the crowd. And but more importantly, that's the day we became Chicanos. We started protesting, and I was telling the woman earlier, Dolores Huerta, I used to see her and Cesar Chavez almost on a daily basis, because the largest Safeway market was on 3rd and Vermont.
Right.
And the different locations, and I told her that we went to these different places, and she taught us how to protest. So we began protesting the Vietnam War, the injustice, and then 1970, we're Laguna Park. We went there, peacefully met, and we were attacked by the sheriff's tear gas, went down Whittier Boulevard, and that's the afternoon Ruben Salazar was killed. Right. So that changed everything for us.
Yeah, I could tell it's a difficult time for you. I see you get a little emotional, and it's a lot to go through. The pain, the suffering, the uncertainty, you know, the discrimination, and the troubles that you went through. It's kind of common, that era, for all of us people of color to have been discriminated against, to have been racially profiled, and not to be understood, and to be, but yet still be necessary for the community, because we were being taken into the military. We were used during the military war, and a lot of us were dying. A lot of soldiers and Chicanos were going to Vietnam and dying over there, not coming back. They were coming back in boxes and in a black plastic bag. So that's difficult. Yeah, it's emotional for you and for me, because those were the things that a lot of us were going through, that today a lot of the public and a lot of the raza needs to be educated on. So your schooling there took you into the Chicanismo and into the movement, into the raza, and how did that affect your education?
Again, my education was on the back burner. That was the furthest thing from my mind. For me, it was about work. I actually had 3 different jobs during high school. Then once I finished high school, I became a hippie. Everybody started hitchhiking. So for a year and a half, I hitchhiked around the country. But at the restaurant where I had previously worked, there was an individual there. He told us, if you want to make something with your life, you got to go to college. And again, as I said, back then, we didn't even think about it. So he left, he was gone. I was on the road for about a year and a half. And when I returned, I said, I have to do something with my life. They had just opened up the East Los Angeles Occupational Center, where they took high school dropouts, dumb shits like myself, people on welfare, parolees, to teach them a trade. I became a nursing orderly, entered the general hospital, and through a series of different positions, I ended up at the medical examiner's office as a volunteer. No education necessary, on-the-job training.
So you were self-taught. You weren't literally educated, but self-taught, and you were one of the first Chicano forensic specialists in the county of Los Angeles. You were a trailblazer, isn't that right?
Yes.
And what was that experience as a the first Chicano forensic specialist?
Well, it was actually interesting, very challenging, because there was a lot of discrimination back then. They say, you got this because of affirmative action. And of course, I'd say, no, I didn't. I scored higher than you on the test.
Ándale.
And I scored, and they wouldn't give me my position because the administrator, he was racist.
So they were discriminating even back then when you were successful.
Exactly.
But little did they know that discrimination only made you stronger, smarter, and made you persevere and work harder to accomplish what you've done.
I think my main focus and my main support were the doctors. They said, they saw something in me that I didn't. They mentored me.
Yes.
They said, we want you to read this book, this chapter, this page. All the doctors there. And I excelled as I took the examination. Then one day they just plucked me out of the autopsy room. Herrera, let's go. We're going to a crime scene. And they issued me a uniform, a used uniform with someone named Bates. So when I went to a crime scene, Bates, you don't look like a Bates, you look like a greaser.
Wow.
That's what the police told me.
Wow.
I said, no, sir, I'm a Mexican American.
So that led into being able to work within the police department and through forensics, but that also led you into a Hollywood career, didn't it?
Well, forensics, it's an umbrella. It's an umbrella, it's a forum. That encompasses hospital, autopsies, academia, where you teach. I taught first-year residents how to do autopsies. Then you have the forensic aspect, pathology of the medical examiner's office, tissue procurement, tissue research, and the death care industry, which are the funeral directors. So it's all an umbrella, and we all serve mankind. So that's where I learned my chops there. It was thousands and thousands of autopsies.
How did that get you into Hollywood?
Hollywood, what happened there is one of the individuals, he was a volunteer. Later on, he became a sheriff. He transferred to Riverside, then eventually he moved to Vegas. And one day he called me, because I go to Vegas about 5 or 6 times a year for business. And he said, Mr. Herrera, this punk is pitching a pilot for TV. I said, what is a pilot? I thought that's someone who flies a plane. He goes, no, it's a pilot. They film an episode. I said, okay, what do they do? He goes, well, what is it called? It's CSI, Crime Scene Investigator. What do you think? I said, that's great. So a couple of days later, this was before the internet, he faxed me the script. Can you read this and make any comments? I said, sure. So I read it. We went over page by page. They filmed the episode and it became a hit.
So you were actually a consultant for Hollywood on how many shows now?
Oh, probably 50 or plus.
Wow.
50 plus. It
Very
started
successful.
with CSI Las Vegas, CSI Miami, New York, New Orleans, Crossing Jordans, Bones, all these.
So you've gone from the pit to the penthouse, can we say? And what would you say to yourself, your younger self? What advice would you give to yourself and to the viewers out there when they're starting out their lives and moving forward?
Find something you're gonna develop a passion for. You know, don't ever give up. Don't ever discount your education. And there's nothing more greater than the value of networking. That is so important. And for me, I took a pledge to protect the Constitution of the United States.
Yes.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that includes to protect the dead. So my mission statement for my business is the deceased must be protected and given a voice. Without a witness, they will be forgotten. We don't forget them.
Well, we want to thank you for that, and we didn't get a chance to discuss it, but this poster here was also part of his work, which will be done in a following shoot and a following taping. But I want you to remember, hey, we're here for you. Los Angeles Boulevard News, it's about you, for you, created by you. You tell your stories and you come on, and if you're interested and you think you have a story that needs to be told, get in touch with us, DM us. We're on social media, Arturo Limon, and aquí estamos, Latino USA TV. Sígale, si se puede.